hold on a minute. Let me see if it's live. We're on LinkedIn right now. I hope it is live because I'm trying to. They
Says it's
don't
live.
give us like an immediate notification. I think it's a little bit delayed. It's technology. But I want to just. Is this it right here? Can you see ourselves on LinkedIn? Can you check real quick on LinkedIn if we are in
Uh,
fact there?
I don't know. I'm not expert on LinkedIn.
I'm not savvy either. I usually have somebody to look at for me, but let's just go at it. Good morning, everybody. 7 a.m. here in Pacific Standard Time in Los Angeles, and I do have a special guest speaker here. Well, not speaker. I mean, he's very well known everywhere here, especially in the security and safety. And what else are you doing these days? I mean, this guy is
The
just
movie
amazing.
industry
But his name
as
is
well.
David Gray. He's no stranger when it comes to talking about what we're about to talk about, situational awareness and all of these things. But I just, without further ado, I just want to introduce him to you guys if you don't know him, David Gray. He's all the way in Bangkok. I think you're in Bangkok right now, right? I mean, tell me
Yeah,
where you are. You travel across the world all the
yeah, I'm
time.
in Bangkok, Thailand right now. For the moment, uh, I'm here.
How
I'll
do you
be.
say good morning? Kun Saba. Let me put up my
No,
note.
no,
Kun Saba
no.
something.
It's a Swati Dan Chow, which is hello in the morning. What it means.
You're
Uh,
PM right now. I
yeah,
understand, right?
yeah,
We have huge difference, time difference. So good to see you. How's your family?
yeah. They're good. They're doing very well. They're doing very well. Kids are all happy, and wife's working a new job, so everybody's busy.
Yeah, I think I don't know, but if you guys don't know, we've come a long way back. I think I met you when you were, oh my gosh, you just got out from the Marine, I think, right?
Yeah, we first met in 2000, and I got out of the Marines in 2001. So I started teaching firearms in Nevada in December of 2000 during my last 8 months in the Marines, and then I got out September 19th, 2001, and yeah, so
Three
we've known each
decades, I
other.
think we've known each other. I think pretty
Yeah,
much, right?
well,
I mean,
yeah,
that's before your stuntman gigs with what is it, Vegas CSI or something like that. I mean, you've
yeah,
done so
I
many
was
movies.
I was doing some then as well, but very intermittently. It wasn't anything full time. I started doing that stuff in 1996 while I was in the Marine, and but very intermittently, I would get called in to do some sort of stunts or some sort of training for them,
Yeah,
uh, that kind of thing.
yeah. I mean, I think I remember, if I may just include this piece of memories that I think you were like line coach or the range master or whatever, and then I was carrying my I remember the Bushmaster
Mm,
AR-15
yeah,
with it, without even anything, without even an ACOG, without even Leopold or anything like that, just like straight
yeah,
with the carry arm. Remember the carry, like two
yeah,
and a half
very
inch
humble.
taller. So every time when
Yeah,
I have to do 400 yards or whatever, I have to like Nicky compensate. Really hold over. That's it. Hold over. And
yeah.
like
So
for
you were the
eyes.
girl in the fashionable cargo pants and high heel combat boots.
Of course. When I had to shoot the movie
Mm,
or the combat training or whatever, yeah, I know everybody was teasing me about that. But great
yeah,
times, good old days. Yeah, moving forward, fast forward, guys. I mean, he's in Bangkok, Thailand right now, and then he has his own. He owns this security. Is it Damos? Did I pronounce it correctly?
Demos. It's the name of a moon, and as well as a god of war. So uh, it's a Greek name.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, he's out there. Clients such as, oh my gosh, corporate and also private and government, even
Mhm.
overseas, right? I mean, I can't tell you.
Well, I
Is it
just
all secret?
I
Top
just
secret?
finished. No, it's not all top secret. I just finished training 7 different countries, police and military special teams that deal in CBRN response, so deal in chemical, radiological, nuclear, biological, and explosive response. Um, I just conducted 4 days of training for them in Hua Hin, Thailand, and we had police and military from Singapore, Malaysia, 4 teams from the Philippines, obviously Thailand, Japan, South Korea, uh, and Indonesia, um, and it went really well. Um, my job was to teach them the tactical side of things, which most of them never get the experience with. They're into
Mm-hmm.
the hazardous materials and medical side of things um, very easily, and the EOD side of things, but they don't get into shooting with a gas mask on or responding to an active threat where there's someone actively placing, uh, some sort of IED or chemical bomb or something like that. So we did a lot of scenarios training for them for
Yeah,
that kind of.
let's talk about that because we want to jump in really quickly here, guys. I know that David Gray has extensive when it comes to tactical training and things like that. And as you already heard for himself that he has taught these 7 different countries. Let's talk about that because these are executives basically, right? Business leaders who run the companies and everything like that. Their companies, how is situational awareness, because I want to jump in directly to that, immediately to that situational awareness, because it's been a part of my journey also in the farms training, right? You know that, right, from the school that I we went to, that you teaching. Situational awareness is part of the package basically. How does that play a role, critical role, when it comes to, because obviously you got to have that in the situational leadership, uh, to be able to adapt in the changing, just critical, like, hey, it's a matter of seconds. What are you going to do? So planning, preparation. Tell us about that.
So they're very situationally aware as far as their company, their earnings, their losses, their expenses, their hazards, their liabilities, and the benefits of their job. They're very situationally aware about those things. Even though they'll walk into traffic because they're looking at their phone, they're situationally aware about their company. Um, but I've also seen some that were not so situationally aware about their company, and they couldn't see that things were falling apart, that employees were stealing, that things needed to be fixed that weren't being fixed, and that partners were upset or things like that. So for me, the way I look at situational leadership is you need your governance element. So your vice president, your president, your CFO, CTO, whatever categories are in your company, to be able to look and see the problems that are happening and immediately figure out how to resolve them, to respond quickly. If they, let's say, we use a color code of mental awareness, right? Jeff Cooper's
Hmm. Hmm.
color code of mental awareness. So if you have a, a president of a company or CEO of a company that's in condition white, he's not worried about anything that's going on in the company. It's other people's jobs to worry about those kind of things.
Hmm.
Right? So he's completely unaware of what's going on in his own company because he's distracting himself with other things, probably family situations, or what's he going to do for the holidays? Is he going to take a vacation? Maybe he's got a new girlfriend. He's got some other distraction that's pulling him away from being focused on his company, on his employees, and on the situation at hand. So that's condition white. Condition yellow is a guy that's kind of got an idea of what's going on.
Hmm.
Uh, he's he's aware of things. He's still comfortable, relaxed. He's not stressed out about anything. Uh, and but he's not really fixing any problems. He's observing. He's seeing some things going on, but he's not reacting to it. And so that would be condition yellow. I think condition red would be a guy that's in a complete state of panic because there's problems everywhere and he's got to fix them all the time. That's pretty much me and my wife when we're running our company. Really, we're
Right.
we're in condition orange. We're in condition orange. We're not in condition red. So we go white, yellow, orange. So we're in condition orange a lot of times. We see the problems and we're trying to fix them and respond to them before they get out of control. Condition red would be when you're in complete panic, everything's out of control, and you're trying to fix it as quickly as you can. And condition black is when you've lost all control and you have no idea
Mm-hmm.
what to do to fix any of the problems, and you just go into what we call paralysis by analysis. So
Paralysis by analysis.
your brain just freezes up and says, "I don't know what to
That's
do.
right.
I don't know how to solve the problem. I'm just going to ignore it until it goes away." And in business, that's not a good idea. So if you're in a leadership position, there's tons of online resources you can look at for situational awareness, how it applies to corporate entities and even down to small businesses and individual leaders inside those businesses. So there's multiple levels of situational awareness
Mm-hmm.
courses that you can take online and a lot of things that you can read for free on there to learn about it. So for me, a situationally aware leader is someone that is not in condition white. He's either in yellow or orange. He doesn't let things get to condition red. And he definitely
Mm-hmm.
doesn't let things get to condition black. So someone that's in yellow to orange and going back and forth, everybody's got to be able to take that gradient, right? They got to observe, orientate, react, and respond, and decide on an action. So that's called the OODA loop,
Yep.
right? OODA. Sorry, I'm losing
Orient,
my voice.
observe, decide, and act.
Yeah, right. Or react. Yeah. So anyway, somebody's got to be in that, doing that process all the time as a leader, right? They've got to be looking at each individual employee, each department, each section, whatever their responsibility is, and observing, orientating, uh, taking decisive action, right, and acting, right. Decide and then act. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's a good leader. That's situationally aware. It's someone that's always in that loop, in the OODA loop.
Yeah, I mean it's been a while. I mean, we talk about SA, situational awareness, tying in with the mental color code of mental awareness. I amazingly enough, not very many people are know about this. They're familiar about this terminology or this concept. I
Right.
even military background, and some. I'm not saying all.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what their job position,
Right.
title, and responsibilities are.
Exactly. And then going into the OODA loop concept, uh, that's like unheard. People don't know. So, I do want to bring in. That's why I want to invite you to, to give perspective, seeing it from the lens of or your background, your expertise, because in civilian world, we take everything for granted. We take everything for granted. Situational leadership is probably something that is still like, what is that? People still googling it, right now. I wrote a book about that, you guys. I'll share that with you guys, the information. But if you go to my LinkedIn, you see what they are and everything. But um, echoing what you were saying, David. So give, I know that you've given some kind of examples already, but give an example where, from your experiences out in the field and bringing it to the civilian workplace environment, there are some similarities, or there are some, at least, things, nuggets that we can pick on, right? um,
Cool.
and then apply it accordingly.
Sure. So I do a lot of I used to do a lot of um, security risk analysis situation for
Mhm.
various companies, and one of them I did was for a medical packaging company here. So they box up all the medical stuff. And one of the problems that they were having was people were stealing their boxes and then taking them and repackaging them with black market, lower grade, or even used medical materials, and then selling them in bulk to hospitals and things like that
Oh,
as coming from this company. And they're charging a huge price for these things that are supposed to be sanitary and professionally
grades and
packaged,
everything.
right? And it's all secondhand stuff, mostly from China. I'd say 98% from China. Uh, and anyhow, and then they're selling this biohazard to companies in the U.S. and the U.K. and Spain at huge prices. So um, they come in and do risk analysis and figure out what they should do. Right? What
Mhm.
should we do to stop this? How can we stop this? And really, I just walked around with the owner and I said, okay, let me take a look at your facility. Well, first of all, you don't have CCTV up. That's a big no-no. You know, I'm just observing, right? So I'm doing the first step.
Mhm.
I'm being observant. I'm being situationally aware. Your loading dock faces a major road. You don't have any fence or gate. You have no access control points to verify shipments coming in or out. Uh, your employee check-in, check-out system is just time card machine. Um, so there's all these things that they just never considered or thought about or looked at because they weren't aware of any kind of better situation.
Right.
Right? So they weren't situationally aware of what could improve their business and keep them from losing clients. As they didn't know that was promised. They were getting sued. So they got sued because somebody said, "Oh, you sent us 4 million latex gloves that were used that were used and had blood and feces and things like that on them." And
No,
that's because the
let me
owner was
ask
in
you
condition
this.
life. He was more
Let me
interested in
ask you
going out
this.
and partying.
I know I've seen this all the time, right? And I think there's a huge lack of just ignorance and, you know, I'll always say this: apathy, complacency, and denial are the three good barriers of situational awareness, right? And people
Well,
in a company, in the context of a company workplace environment, how critical is it to have a specific department just to handle that? Come on, guys. I mean, it's smart for us, to dedicate
that's your
a
control
team, a
guys, right?
task force team.
Right.
Sorry.
That's kind of like your quality control team. They come in and they're checking the quality of the product, they're checking the quality of the employees, they're checking the quality of the work being done by those employees, and that's their job is to be aware of all the details of what's going on inside the company to assure quality product in the end to the client.
Well, yeah, I mean, in bigger companies, we're talking about, more than 5,000 employees, for example, or let's just say 2,000 employees, 1,000 employees, 2,000 above, or whatever. I mean, isn't there supposed to be a separate from safety to, like you said, the quality assurance company? I mean, safety and hazard, or a lot of the smaller companies, everything will fall in under HR, human resources, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Just because they streamline it. But
yeah.
I'm talking about, wouldn't it be best if they have some kind of like a task force or disaster, preparedness team? I think it's just time right now, you guys. I mean, I'm just saying it out loud. I mean, call me crazy,
Yeah.
but I mean, is that creating a job? Yeah, absolutely. Is that creating a new department? Absolutely. I mean, is that going to be because from
Yeah, but
that department, from that unit, you can offer safety preparedness training, whether it is active shooter, whether it is disaster preparedness, all
most
of
things
these.
come down to budget. Most
But
things
yeah,
come
I was
down
going
to
to say it all drives to the budget. Of course, it drives
yeah.
to the money. If it doesn't, you know, of course, the C-suite level will look at it like, does it generate profit? If it doesn't, does it generate income? Does it generate money? Basically, right? It all comes down to money. But then we're talking about money versus people, because we're trying to save lives. We're trying to save, employees, the safety of the employees, and also,
So
themselves, basically.
we on a slight tangent here. We had a active shooter situation here at a um, daycare for kids,
Mhm.
and 20 something people were killed. Most of them small children under the age of 5,
Mhm. Oh,
and and the caretakers or teachers, and so all the schools were suddenly going, oh, we need active shooter training. We need active shooter training.
right.
And I said, okay, I can give it to you, you know. Um, and then I said, this is what I need. I need all of the teachers. I need all of the janitorial staff. I need all of the, fitness coaches, gym coaches or whatever, and all the administrative people there on on the weekend. I need them to come in on a weekend, and we'll do training just for the staff on a weekend, and then we'll do everything else for the school, like the students and everything. We'll do some scenarios during the week. And they're like, "Oh, what's this going to cost?" I said, "I'll do it for free, but you got to cover your cost." And they went and did their little calculations, like how much it would cost them to pay the teachers overtime for working for
Right.
coming in on the weekend, and they said, "No, we can't do it.
Who can do it? Yeah. I
No, we
knew
can't.
that's going to come that way.
Won't do it."
That's
And I
sad.
said, "Okay." It's very sad. I said, "Okay, well, that decision is going to cost lives, and you need to find another solution to that. You know, you need
Yeah, I mean, I
to
hear this all the
look at the
time.
situation, look at your budget, and figure out a solution to the problem. Right?
Exactly. I hear this all the time. I mean, unfortunately, big company or company schools, whatever, right? Entities like this, they would prioritize the money before the people, the safety of the people. That's not right. That is not right.
Yeah.
And then the saddest part is that when it does happen, right? Because we don't eradicate this mentality, it would never happen to us, right? We don't eradicate much enough. And then when it does happen, and then they go, oh, let me call you. Can you please train? Just like what you were saying.
Yeah.
This happens all the time. I get approached like, hey, Nikki, can you teach us how to do this? Can you teach us how to... This happened afterwards. We're all about
Yeah.
preparedness. So it should be mitigating.
And that same school came back and told me, "Oh, well, the local police department's going to come do training for 4 hours one
I
day."
get that too. Right.
And I was like, "Okay, and
Okay,
how
good.
wallaby do you think that's going to be?" Free training from the local police who haven't been trained, um, and they're going to do it all for free in 4 hours. Seems very
What are
realistic.
Right. What are some thoughts? I'm going to pause at that. What are some thoughts that you can see that you can share, because if people are listening, and this is recorded, so people are going to probably listen to it later on. What are some thoughts? Because I have my own 3 cents. I have my own insights and perspectives in this. The differences when we talk about this, I think you and I know this from the school too, right? The teaching, the disciplines from the law enforcement based on the, with the civilian set of mindset, I should say. I guess I didn't clarify the question. That wasn't a question, wasn't it? What are some thoughts, the differences, uh, the teaching, the disciplines, skills from that, you know, mentality to civilian mentality? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. So there's
There
civilians
are
will
some
come in.
issues there. I know that. Some
Right, right,
challenges, I should say.
right, right. So the civilians expect everything to be done fast and easy, and that they can kind of be only halfway awake through whatever you're trying to teach. The military and or law enforcement aspect of training requires 100% focus, or you're going to have failures in your system. Um, so people would get upset when I do trainings for civilian and I see somebody looking at their phone or they're dozing off in the back or they're not
Mhm.
paying attention, and I would say, I'm sorry, is this boring to you? This is information that can save your life and your coworker's life. Please stand up and put your phone down.
Mhm.
If you're falling asleep, get up and walk around a little bit. Don't fall asleep. And they get upset because I call them out. Well, this is the guy that's going to end up costing you your life because he didn't pay attention, right? Also, the civilians, they want everything, like I said, short, fast, and easy. Okay,
Yeah.
but military, we break things down into a system that's lecture, demonstrate, uh, and then do practical application, which means so like to do a lecture, this is what we're doing, this is how it's supposed to go, and it's just a little block, right? Just a little segment, and then so we lecture a little bit, we do a demonstration how it's supposed to go with the instructor or demonstration staff, and then we do a practical application where the students go and actually apply what that little section of that lecture block
Mhm.
that's been taught. And then we do that for each segment of the learner, right, of the curriculum which needs to be taught. Civilians don't really seem to follow that three to four step process. And then we do a review, right? So question and answers and review. What worked? What didn't work? What do you think about this? How
Mhm.
can we fix it a little bit better? What would you do to improve this situation? Some civilian training things do have question and answer session at the end, but usually it's like fill out a questionnaire and drop it in a box on your way out. We're doing it. We do it in that particular section before we move to the next lecture block. I want to know what questions you have now, not after the class is over and you're gone, and you're 50 miles down the highway and I'm reading a sheet of paper. I want to know right now something that you don't understand that doesn't work for you so we can fix it and then improve
Mhm.
your capabilities to survive and save others and whatever scenario we're talking about. So that's a difference between civilian training and military or law enforcement style of training. And I've seen some
Right.
law enforcement training that's pretty sloppy as well. So
But I think we can certainly, learn from the mentality side of it in the military, military aspect of it, military mindset, I should say. God, it's so early. Where, you got to get done. It has to get
yeah,
done. I mean,
yeah,
however that was, whatever it takes, like what
yeah.
Marines would say, right? Now, in your experience, how can organization incorporate that situational leadership into their program, into their leadership development programs?
I think what they should do is they put it as like part of their procedure for their leadership element. Look, you have to go and observe your staff. You have to observe this department and this section, and these are all the things you need to observe. And
Right.
these are your decision capabilities. Right? What are your uh, what are your solutions to the problem? What are your possible solutions to the problems? These are all the things we can do to fix it. So that needs to be put into like this is your job, dude. If you're a boss, you have to do this, and then you have to solve these problems with these assets or that you have, and then take action, implement it, and keep it moving forward. So I think that has to be put into people's job titles and positions um, as part of their responsibilities. A lot of companies don't do that. They won't tell them you have to go and you know do these specific
Right.
things as your duties. Uh, you know,
I'm driving this in a different way, right? Because I've been into disaster risk management, business continuity. We talked about business continuity, business, disaster plan, how to take care of, organization such as disasters, natural disasters. But lately, I mean, at least in the last couple of decades, you and I start talking about active shooter just because, we've been chiming in. It's like, hey, let's get our shit together because could happen, this could happen over two decades now. 2 decades, not 1 decade, but two, maybe beyond that. Um, and I think what I'm trying to drive here is even a bigger priority that needs to taken into consideration for any leaders and business leaders and whoever that owns a company, organization, especially multiple locations. Like, hey, you're not only looking into disaster recovery. I'm sorry, disaster. How to respond quickly and effectively in the event of this kind of things happen, but also the recovery side of it, right? But I'm also driving it into how does situational leadership, uh, you know, can take role into your leadership styles already, right? And when is it most effective to be used? And I think those are the things that I want to invite everybody who's listening right now to even consider the priorities. No, we're not trying to teach military style kind of like organization, hold every employees to have firearms. Something that'd be great, but more in the mentality side of it, the mindset side of it, that could
Well,
happen.
so observation, right, is a big part of situational. It's one of the biggest parts of situational awareness. And having human resources or management level personnel that are observing their employees and can take a look at them and see which ones are having problems, difficulties in their personal life, in their work life, in their um, inter-work relationships. So in relationships with their coworkers, who's having difficulties, and what could be a flashpoint? What could be a spark that can ignite an active shooter or stabbing situation or workplace violence kind of scenario? Um, that's observation. That's being situationally aware as a leader of your people that are working underneath
Mhm.
your position, and
I, I,
that
I
needs to
want to
be
inject
done.
really quickly before I forget, Dave. Before, I know that I always mention, I mentioned a few times already with you. It's like, hey, look at the demographics, look at the location of your, where you are and everything, and then we go from there because disasters might be prone to your geographic location. But that was natural disasters and active. But then we start talking about this narrative about active shooters, like it could happen anytime, anywhere. I mean, regardless
Right.
geographic. We're talking about people now, right? We're talking about
Yeah.
emotion. We're talking about,
Mhm.
so that's where I come in right now. And that's why I want to get, your perspective in the lens of, experiences and, military background and teaching all of this little different tactical. So from that side of point, like, hey, what should we do? What do we do? How can we make this effective?
Mhm. Well,
It's not
let
the
me let me
same.
yeah, no, it's not the same. Let me take you on a little side note here with a story. Okay.
Good
While I was in
idea.
the Marines, I was working security at a hotel in Anaheim, California. In on
Mhm.
my off days and everything when I was stateside, which um, usually was 3 to 6 months at a time. I'd be stateside, so I was at work security. I was working at this hotel, and they had I got to know the staff um, fairly well pretty quickly, and they liked me. And some of them really opened up to me about you know their concerns about other people and things like that. Well, there was one bellman who um, had an alcohol abuse problem, and on especially Monday mornings, he had a tendency to flare up, and on Friday nights, he would have a tendency to flare up and be quick to get hot with the other staff, right? And get lippy, and so I started just paying attention to this guy, right, and everybody around him, and seeing how he reacted to them and how they reacted to him, and after just maybe 7 or 8 days of watching him, I wrote a report and gave it to HR department saying, look, you need to keep an eye on this guy. He's going through some things in his life, and he's dependent on alcohol. He's functional alcoholic, but uh, Mondays he's coming in really hungover. On Fridays he's drinking before he's off his shift, um, and this is creating some serious problems. And he's drinking at home every night, but he's not drinking as heavily as he is on Sunday
Mm-hmm.
and Friday. And I said, you need to watch out for this guy. I don't know what access he has to firearms or weapons or whatever, but if he gets caught with somebody, there's a potential that he could become violent. And they blew me off. And he'd been there for quite a number of years, and uh, so they blew me off. 2 weeks later, I left, went on deployment. But 2 weeks later, this guy comes to work and hits someone. He gets angry with a guest and hits them with a stanchion. You know, the little thing you use to hold up the velvet rope in front of the front desk. It weighs
What is that?
a stanchion. It's the little brass pole with the ball on top where you connect the velvet rope to tell people where to go to direct traffic. Well, he didn't like the way one of the guests was talking to him, and the guest called him on his alcohol, like, "Hey, I can smell you sweating out something," and he picked up the stanchion and hit the guest with it multiple times. The thing weighs about 10 pounds, the base weight on the bottom. And the the guest ended up in the hospital, and that guy ended up in jail, and the hotel ended up getting sued. Why did they get sued? They got sued because
Negligent.
this negligence. They knew this person had an alcohol problem, and the guest found out that the hotel knew this guy had an alcohol problem. They didn't do anything to intervene or change his behavior. So, uh, again, that's HR in condition white, or in denial, right? Apathy and
Denial.
denial,
Mm-hmm.
right? And and saying, oh, it's not that bad. I know him. I've known him for 7, 8 years, or whatever the case was.
Mm-hmm.
So complacency as well. They became complacent because, oh, we know him and we know how to handle him, and da 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 da. Yet he virtually caved in this head, and I said, well, I kind of told you so. And I sent the man the newspaper article that I saw. I was in where was I? I was in I was in Latin America somewhere. I was down south, and I saw this
Uh,
newspaper
Georgia.
article,
Oh,
and
um,
and so I cut it out and sent it by mail back to the manager of the hotel. I'm like, yeah, this guy sounds familiar. And then when I came back to the States, I talked to them about it. They said, yeah,
did they call you back? Did they call you?
yeah, yeah. They called me, and I worked there for off and on for a couple of years while I was in the Marines, and I ended up reorganizing the whole security team and their CCTV systems and everything, and changing their whole cash and transit pick up and drop off protocols, and a whole bunch of things. And
It's very unfortunate, like I said earlier, disaster
yeah,
would strike, and then they would say, holy crap, or something bad, tragic happened, and then they go, because they knew this, right? They knew it's going to happen, or it could happen. I shouldn't say it's going, it could,
yeah,
right? We don't want to set
yeah,
paranoia, obviously, but it's
yeah,
like it's all about preparedness. It's all about this. It's all about taking action to prepare yourself. It's a cheap insurance to train your employees, to train the whole, you know, company wide. But unfortunately, when people look at the news, people look at the neighboring company, organization, or some CEO's friend, best friend, owns a company, and say, "Oh, we just got you know lost a lot of things. Oh my God, we got to do something about this." I think it's the mentality of that. Is the basis of that. That's what I'm trying to invite people to listen to this and to
yeah,
take action, basically.
yeah,
Because if you're a leader, you gotta be situational leader, right? And let's talk about that. How can you become a situational leader? I mean, we've been talking about it already, right? But if anybody just kind of like, what is that? And what you explained it already.
Yeah,
But if it
I
doesn't hit
explained it.
them, it doesn't hit them.
Yeah, no, they have to see it for what it is and then apply it. You know, take it in, absorb it, make it part of who what they are, and then apply it. Until they do that, it's not going to work. So,
Yeah, another, well, we already hit the nail a while ago. It's all about the budget. It's all about the money, obviously, right? The mentality and the money.
yeah,
Those two are just critical, guys. I mean, those two you cannot bargain. Those two you cannot compromise when it comes to safety of lives, basically lives that can be taken, right? We're not just talking about active shooters. You know, we're talking about different types of disasters, basically, right? Um, and this is something that you and I have been talking about situational awareness for decades, man. And we I know I teach that, and you teach that. I teach that in universities, and not lately though, because of the pandemic and everything. People do not, convene anymore in person.
yeah.
Wonder why? And that kind of like give us a little bit hurdle, also distraction of because the most effective way of teaching is really in person for this kind of thing, right? Because we demonstrate some of the skills, right? Is
People
pretty much interact.
internalize things better when you put them through it in, in in a scenario where they have to respond, they have to think, they have to problem solve, and then they internalize it better. They understand it better because it's not just reading lines on a screen or a page.
No,
It's okay now. My mental processes have to be
mhm,
engaged, and I have to
doing
do
it.
specific things to complete the mission or the goal at hand. Right. So
Moving
that's
forward,
why. It's better.
yeah, moving forward, is this going to be more critical? Do you see
Oh yeah,
if the
sure.
world is going this way?
Yeah, the way the world's going now, sure. Now you got to start watching for balloons.
Exactly. Huh? When I remember when I walk in to teach university at the university, students at university, they know the topic already, right? Uh, I just want to share this really quickly. They know the topic already. I walk in and I say, okay, my name is blah blah. Open your books, blah blah, and not books. Look at the screen, obviously, because I'm gonna have presentation. But I disrupt that immediately by saying, let's get into how many of you now? 30 something people, 30 something in a room. Okay, we're going to break out into five groups. So six of you on each group, right? And pick one's spokesperson, a leader. And then we're going to do some scenarios. So this is the simulation. This is, like you said, I mean, we understand, obviously. I just want to share this with the people, the folks that are listening right now. The simulation, the way that we want to communicate these skills, basically, it has to be transmitted here, right? And then have that rapid skill of making decisions effectively when, if, and when this happens, right? So I give them different scenarios, basically. You know, in context of situational awareness, what if this happens? What are you guys going to do? Please tell us about it, and let's play a role in this. That goes on for the first 45 minutes. After that, then the books. Then we're going
Yeah,
to go
yeah,
into the materials and then take the test to see obviously if you pass it or not. But that's the kind of thing that I'm teaching. That's the way, the style that I'm teaching. It's not like reading. I'm so against that. Anybody can read, anybody can go watch a video, but until you simulate your role, what are you going to do? How are you going to do this? Either yourself or together, because you're going to have a backup. People, I hope, and people accordingly in your team, at your workplace, for example, or school environment, whatever. You have the knowledge now. You have the skill now, and do that repetitively, right? Repetitiously. How do you say that? Consistently, or in repeated way. So your brain will develop this muscle memory. So it's not going to shock you, right?
Well, you have to
Uh,
develop a baseline program for what
Sorry?
you're going to do. You have to develop a baseline program in your brain.
Yeah,
This is your
to
CPU,
program
your
it.
central processing unit, and you got to program your brain with some sort of response to some stimuli, to some scenario. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you one more story, and then I got to go to bed.
Okay.
Uh,
I know we're about in the hour right now, but yeah, I love your
yeah.
stories. Go ahead.
Okay. So in this training that I just did for the uh, 7 country police and law enforcement specialized unit, we did do a bodyguard executive diplomatic level protection scenario, and um, this was just them becoming the bodyguards, so they can understand it from the bodyguard side of things. So the VIP
Mhm.
pulls up in a car, he gets out, they have to escort him to his hotel room. So to do this, you to do it at a diplomatic security level, you need to have an advanced team that
Mhm.
comes before the VIP that checks the area, goes through the hotel rooms and checks for poisons, checks for radiological signatures, checks for any kind of surveillance equipment, listening devices, this kind of thing, and then observes the hotel to get a baseline for what's a normal activity for 1 to 5 days before the VIP shows up. See who's hanging out in the lobby, what are they looking for, uh, connect with the CCTV um, security room and sit in there and observe the happenings of the hotel, what's going on, and understand schedules of the housekeeping and this kind of stuff. High level situational awareness, right?
Mhm.
And then when the VIP shows up, you have the VIP team that's with him. They have to be briefed. Okay, so this is another part
Okay.
of your leadership thing. It's passing on the information that you learn from your situational leadership. You're passing that information either down the line or to higher ups or to somebody that's on the same level as you. So you're passing on this vital information, this life-saving information to that next group. You have to be detailed, precise, and quick, and to get them to take it in. And then you have to escort the VIP to the room. And along the way, uh, we had some players, role players. We had women that would say, "Oh, this is like a celebrity guy. He's got so many bodyguards. Let me come take a selfie with you." Da, 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 and just try to get close and be a distraction while another person is coming walking past, gets through the bodyguard, and just touches the VIP with a contaminated rag that has some sort of poison or cyanide or something on it. And then the VIP goes down, and then they have to react. Right? So it comes down to them really being attention to detail, being situationally aware, and learning how to do the OODA loop, right? and and react to everything. You can do similar things with civilian jobs. It doesn't have to be like
Right.
bodyguard, but walking through creating a scenario at your place of okay, we found someone doing some sort of activity that's inappropriate. How do we catch that? How do we react to that? What do we do to fix it? Uh, that kind of thing. So I think that's how it can be applied in the civilian world.
That's a very good example, from your perspective, from what you're training in bodyguard and all this. I think it's so important, it's so critical that we must prioritize this kind of thing into the organization. But yeah, I think you said that you gotta go, right? I want to hear more stories actually about, especially in the military, how this come around. Situational awareness examples and things like that. Not just how we can apply it into our organizational working environment, but yeah, I mean, is there anything that quickly, like a few seconds, that you want to just share a little story in situational awareness? Give some examples.
So we had a, let's call it a large bottling company here in Thailand was that was suffering massive losses, and they couldn't figure out where they were suffering these losses from or why. And so they called in another guy that I was working with at the time, Larry Peak, great guy, uh, ran Peak Security Innovations, and he was a security consultant, former Army Delta Forces guy, and he went in and did a full audit of their books and everything with a team of auditors, and they found out that there was fraud from the top level guys, the top 10 or 12 executives, and so he became their situational awareness guy, right? He came in and he's like, what's the situation? What do I need to be aware of? What am I looking for? Okay, I found something that I'm looking for. Now he orientated onto that, focused on that, and then he came up with uh, a decision. He decided what needed to be done. These people all needed to be terminated. He went and talked to the executives above them from the U.S. side of the company and said, "Hey, look, I think these people need to be terminated and removed and replaced." And they agreed, and then put into they went through another whole cycle of everything, right? Okay, well, what's the problem? How do we solve the problem? How do we get these people out without creating a bigger problem? And how do we do it safely without getting anyone, without having a mass shooting incident,
Yeah.
without having a
Yeah.
workplace violence kind of scenario, and all that kind of stuff? And so it was determined that we weren't going to terminate these top level executives who had their own bodyguards. They're making a $30,000 a month, which is huge money here in Thailand. And some of them are making more than that. I think that the top one was making 8 million baht a month, so that's $200,000 or something uh, a month. Ridiculous
How many
money.
bodyguards does he
Yeah, so
have?
normally they were running with like 8 to 12 bodyguards, and so we had to figure out a way to separate them from their bodyguards and have a private discussion and terminate their employment, and how to terminate their employment without them seeing it as a total loss and going completely bananas. Uh, so they all got what we called the golden umbrella. They all got severance pay for up to
Mhm.
a year, in some cases at their current level, and then uh, but they also got at the same time they got like the equivalent of a restraining order, um, and told to stay away and break all contact and turn over all client lists, and their emails were all shut down, and uh, all they had no access to any company emails or client lists anymore. Uh, and so we had to come up with all of these different little actions that had to be done. And
Mhm.
we went to the hotel, we swept the rooms that that our VIP that we were looking after that was doing the termination was staying in. We, and then we set up all these rooms with listening devices, with recording devices, where we were going to be doing the terminations. And then we set up guys around the hotel to make sure nobody's coming in the back door to do bad stuff to us. And while we're doing these terminations, and then we have to separate them from their bag. We say, hey, look, this is a private meeting, no cell phones, no bags. Um, we don't want anybody recording anything they shouldn't be. It's just top level stuff. And so we separated them from their bag, and then looked in the bags to see what was in there. We couldn't remove anything legally. We couldn't put our hands inside, but we could unzip it, look in, and use a flashlight to look around.
Mhm.
We did find one firearm in there in one person's bag, and we decided it would just be for our best safety to remove the firearm, disassemble it, take the firing pin out, and put it back in the bag. So
Where is this? Which country?
this is in Thailand. This is all in
Thailand.
Thailand.
Okay.
And so anyway, they all uh, got the golden umbrella, and only one person, the person who had the firearm, got lippy, got mouthy, and then all they asked me to do was just step halfway through
You
the
guys
door to
know
the
about that? I mean, you
huh?
guys kind of.
Yeah, we were listening to all of the terminations, but we had set up our own little cameras and
Mm,
everything in the room. So we're in another adjoining room watching everything that's going on. We had three separate termination suites set up. So all these terminations are going on at the same time, but we're watching all of them by remote CCTV. And and so one guy started to get a little mouthy and started to get hot. And so they said, "Oh, we just need David to take these documents and let them see David, and then he will change his attitude." And that's exactly what happened. I knocked on the door, handed him some papers, and he saw this 6'2", 225-pound Marine standing there, and he went, maybe I need to shut up, and and and, and he got real quiet after that. And so
it's like, oops.
oops, let me just sign this paperwork.
let,
And
let, let me let me like
yeah,
what can you do, right? I mean,
yeah,
it sounds like all of these things, that you do just to get surveillance and then you get the answer correctly to get, it just so much, I mean, the preparation
you
that
know,
go into it,
it's a lot of
planning,
planning.
I guess.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, with that, I have got to go to bed. I have to be up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, okay. All right. It was good. It was good. It was good. I mean, this is something that I've been wanting. It should be part two or something like that. But just want to touch on the situational leadership and bringing in that SA, situational awareness, incorporating it into this leadership. Basically skills, and how can we prioritize that? Because
Well,
it is
you got to get,
important.
you got to get companies to pick up on some training and start to run some scenarios, and corporate team building
Yep.
with situational awareness incorporated into that. That I think is the best answer.
I think education and communication also, once when it's already have a baseline, communicating it regularly, and then also effectively training it, simulate it with the employees necessarily accordingly to
Right.
your workplace, because every workplace is kind of different, right? The format is
Exactly.
different, demographically, and then also the physical layout is different. I think you need people to come in there to also mentor you guys, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, what are your last thoughts, Dave?
That's it. Just get someone in. If you don't know how to conduct the training yourself, get someone in to train to do the training, mentoring, yeah, tutoring, whatever you want to call it, guiding, coaching. Get somebody in to help you out, and I've
Do you
done
see any other issues? Do you see any other issues besides budget, and the mentality side of it that could
well.
prevail?
Some people like to. Some companies like to try to handle every single thing in house because they don't want people from the outside to possibly perceive that there's
Yep,
any kind of problem or deficiency in
true.
the company. So that's another
Very,
big
very,
one.
very true.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And then when it does happen, they're gonna say, we know the rest of this. But here's one stood out though. The least that you guys can do is to try to analyze your, I'd say, I don't know how far, five surrounding. Where is your nearest hospital? Where is your nearest fire station? Where is your nearest shelter? All of these things. At least you guys have that kind of foundation, if you don't want to invite other people outside to come in to train, right? Is that okay enough to say?
Yeah, that's a good start. That's a good start. My
It
battery
is a good
in
start.
front of me is gonna die, so I have no option. I
Yeah,
have to leave.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, good seeing you as always.
Good seeing you as
Don't
well.
forget to follow him on LinkedIn, and then you have a book as well. I don't have a screen that I can, but I can share with them later on after the post event kind of thing, post live event. This, but you do have a really, what is the book called?
I have right now. I have a fantasy fiction novel called Demon by Night, Knight, like a knight in shining armor. That's out on. It's on. It is on Amazon, but it's probably better to get it from um, Google Play Books, and you can download it in a number of fashions. I have another book coming out right now. It's called. It'll be coming out in a few months, and it's called Jack. Just another contract killer, and that's an action adventure spy
What is the book
versus spy
called?
kind.
The next one?
It's called Jack Disavowed. And Jack is an acronym for just another contract killer.
Is it your son?
No, it's not my son. This
Oh,
book
okay.
was written.
When I hear the word Jack, I mean,
Yeah,
his name. Like,
this
okay,
this
that's
story, this character in this story was written in 2011 as a movie script, and I've reformatted it as a novel now. So because I haven't sold the movie script yet, but I decided to make it into a novel, and I've updated it, added 3 chapters and a new ending to it, and a host of new characters. So the original
is it
story
done
was
yet
way
or
before
no?
my time.
Not yet.
I'm in the last chapter of writing, and then I have to do illustrations, graphics, book covering, that kind of thing, and then it'll be ready. So
That's cool.
I'm in the last
Well,
chapter.
let me know.
Yeah,
There are
well,
2 books that he has and everything. But on the screen, Situational Leaderships also just went out on Amazon. You guys need to check it out. It does talk about situational awareness, how to incorporate it into your leadership. Um, eh, Other than that, I mean, I have another book as well. I believe it's this one here. Let me just go ahead and share it real quickly here. We can end this. It is this one. Um, this is something that's really, really, I think it needs to be reintroduced. But I'm going to talk a lot about this in the coming days. So hang tight. But for this topic, situational awareness, let's, guys, connect with us, connect with him. He's got a
well,
really highly extensive knowledge and wisdom and real experience, a wealth of experience that he can share with you guys. And I don't know if you do virtual. Um, but he's out there all the time. He's out in the field
I
all
have
the
done
time.
some virtual classes. Yeah.
Sorry,
I have done some virtual seminars and classes before.
you do. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So you heard it. He does some virtual as well. Just contact him. He's on LinkedIn, and follow both of us and connect with us. And you never know what you're getting. Really, all good, positive. All right, Dave. Nice seeing you. Stay safe and be healthy. Be well with your family. Talk soon. I know it's late, man. 11 o'clock in Bangkok. Talk soon. Bye.